So it's been almost a year and a half since I bought the F-150, and I love this truck. But there's one thing that has bothered me since the second that I bought it, and I've really just been putting it off. And that is just how damaged this front bumper is. See, the rest of the truck is beautiful. The paint is in actually pretty good condition for being a 2014. But the bumper, it's definitely not beautiful. Now, as you can see, there's rock chips littered all over this thing. And I did retrofit an old light bar in the front. And while I was doing that, I managed to break the clips here on those little plastic guys. So it just doesn't fit exactly like it should anymore. This bumper is completely destroyed and long overdue for an upgrade. That's what we're doing today. You guys might remember about a year ago, we actually upgraded our rear bumper here with a unit from Hooke Road, and it is holding up phenomenally. Now, of course, it's pretty dirty and the powder coat color has faded just a little bit, but overall there's no rust. It is super heavy duty and just really nice to have a little more confidence in the rear in case it were to hit something. This guy's stout. So today is the day we are finally going to stop putting this off. We have another brand new bumper from Hooke Road, so let's get into it. Alright, so here's what we have in the box. We have a center section that has a nice little grill close off. This piece is designed for you to be able to install a LED light bar, and the grill is also removable in case you don't like that look. I kind of like it, I kind of am unsure, so we're probably going to throw the old light bar in there, see how that looks, and decide from there. There's also a couple of brackets, not exactly sure where those go yet, but we'll figure it out. And then you have your two end pieces, and in the end pieces we have built-in recessed LED pods and a cool little finned detail right there. And last but not least, we have a bag of hardware. This is going to be to assemble everything, and I assume to mount it to the truck as well. So you'll have to ignore the giant mess that is my garage right now, but I wanted to lay everything out and get it ready to go together, and I figured it's probably better to do it on the rug here in the garage. So I went ahead and laid out all of our bolts, made sure that we have everything, and it looks like we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and start installing these end caps onto the centerpiece. Now, just like with our rear bumper, there is a little bit of adjustability here between the two pieces. So before I tighten all of these down, I'm going to make sure that this is nice and flush and looks even all the way around. And once we have the first side bolted on, we'll repeat the exact same thing with the second side. Just like that, we're ready to get this bumper installed on the truck. Well, we're almost ready. I guess we should probably pull off the factory bumper first. Apparently, I was supposed to unbolt the hood latch as well. So we finally got the bumper off. I did have to unscrew these two screws here, which are 8mm, as well as the 10mm that holds on the hood latch release. And another big benefit of us getting rid of this factory bumper is going to be the extra added clearance for those 37-inch tall tires. As you can see, I've been rubbing on this air dam every single time I turn the truck. And yes, I could have removed the air dam or trimmed it back, but I knew that whichever bumper that I went with was going to be higher clearance. So really, there was no reason in bothering with that. We're gonna have plenty of clearance now, so there shouldn't be any more rubbing. Now, before we install the new bumper into the truck, I thought it would be a perfect time to go ahead and toss in our light bar. And to do that, we're going to simply drop it down into the provisions that are already here and tighten it down. Now, my initial plan was to leave this mesh grill in here because I thought it gave it a pretty cool look. But one thing I noticed is that this old rigid light bar is actually just a little too big to fit between the hardware that they used to mount the mesh. So because of that, I'm going to have to pull off the mesh, and in theory, it should drop right into place. So I changed my mind. Instead of taking the mesh out, I was actually able to bend these tabs top and bottom just enough so that the light bar could sit in there flush. I went ahead and tightened it down, and it looks like that's going to work out just fine. And from the front, we were able to retain that mesh grill and still have the light bar behind it. All right, boys, we're ready to throw the new bumper on, and now would be a great time to have a buddy come and help you lift it into place. But because I'm out here by myself, I'm going to go ahead and line up some hardware so that it's ready to grab and give it the old college try. So I managed to get 2 of the bolts started. I'm going to leave everything nice and loose so that we can make some final adjustments before we tighten everything down. And now with all 4 bolts in place, I'm going to make sure that this gap is nice and even all the way across the bumper, and then I'll start tightening those bolts down. And just so you guys can see, of course, we have the provided hardware in both of these factory holes. Now there's one more piece we need to grab from the stock bumper. That's going to be the mount for our hood release. I'm just going to go ahead and zip this guy off. Now this is going to be the part where we utilize these additional brackets. These actually bolt to the top of the bumper and then allow you to bolt your hood release bracket to that. I went ahead and installed one of them. As you can see, it's right there along the top edge. You can see it comes up behind the plastic on the backside, and that's going to be where we utilize this bolt hole right here. On second thought, I think these tabs are actually meant to go underneath the bumper on the bottom side of it. So I'm going to pull those off, tuck it underneath, and then it should just be a bolt head showing on the top. The way it is right now would drive me absolutely crazy because these little guys are just there and I don't like it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, guys, that is much better. There's just a nice little button head screw on the top of the bumper showing that. And honestly, I know most people are probably never going to notice those bolts, but the way I had the tabs before really was bothering me. So this is definitely a better way to do it. It's looking pretty good. All we've got left to do now is wire up all the lights. Now there's a couple different ways that you can do this. You can have all of your lights on a switch, but the easiest thing for me is to just splice these outer pods onto our factory fog light harness. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. This LED bar does have a backlight to it, so I think I'm going to wire all of that together. So anytime my fog lights are on, the backlight is on the light bar, and then the light bar itself will be on a separate switch entirely. There's no reason to be running a light bar as your fog lights. It's just too bright on the streets. So these pods are going to be plenty, and we'll have the light bar set up separately for when we need a little bit more light. So you guys saw I just wired up the passenger side fog light. This wire is running all the way across, tied into the backlight on the light bar through here.
and then I connected the power and ground for the driver's side fog light. So now we have these two pigtails and then the rest of this harness for the light bar. I'm not going to get into the light bar wiring because that came with its own harness, so that's just going to plug directly into that. However, for the fog lights, like I mentioned, we're going to use the factory fog light harness, and that's what we have here. Now, you can of course go and find the matching connector and wire this up so that it is removable. I don't plan on ever using a factory style fog light again, so I'm not too concerned with that. As we're looking at this harness, I believe the wire with the yellow tracer is going to be our positive, and the wire with the green tracer is the ground. If it turns out that it is opposite of that, then I will definitely let you guys know, but that's where we're going to get started. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the connector here and splice this together. And if we did that properly, I should be able to turn on the fog light switch and power up all of those lights. So let's go give that a shot. So there we go, we've got both fog lights working. I don't have ground to the light bar yet, so it's getting power and the backlight will turn on as soon as I ground that out. So I'm gonna finish wiring up that light bar and then I'll show you guys the final result. There you have it, that's the finished product. We have the backlight on the light bar, the fog lights are wired up, and I gotta say, I'm really loving the new look. So once again, a huge thank you to Hooke Road for sending out the front bumper to match the rear. If you guys are interested in picking up some armor for your truck or Jeep, check them out. There is a link in the description as well as a discount code. Use that code, save yourself a little bit of money. Make sure if you haven't already to hit the subscribe button. We have plenty of cool new installs coming for both the truck and the Jeep, and I will see you guys in the next one.